Today's headline is Far Up the Yukon. The subheadline says, How the Ice Goes Out, No Night in Summer, Under the Aurora. This article originally came from the Morning Oregonian. It says, Mr. Wilbur Cornell, a printer well known in Portland, has been in Alaska for many months engaged in mining. He has recently gone up the Yukon River to the Northwest Territory. The following letter from Mr. Cornell to his brother is dated at Mitchell, Yukon River, Northwest Territory on June 10th. I arrived at this place, which is at the mouth of 40 Mile Creek, on the 7th of June last year. We were freed from the ice blockade in the Yukon May 28th. A long winter, but not unpleasant to me. The breakup is a grand sight. The source of the river being some distance south of the mouth and some 10 degrees south of the most northerly point of the river, the first falling and consequent rise is at the head. This, of course, naturally breaks the ice from its moorings at sides and bottom, and a sudden rise from some tributary starts to crush over the unyielding ice below. The huge cakes slide, jam, push, and crush over that which will not yet yield, until they are piled 10, 20, 50, and it is said even 70 feet high, and extending from 1/4 to 1 mile down the river and entirely across and away up on the banks either side. I have seen masses weighing many tons perched upon the banks 80 feet above the water in the river after the ice flow had gone by. This gorge of ice described above must give way in time, the constantly accumulating ice and water rendering it impossible for any barrier save one of solid rock or earth to withstand the pressure, and it breaks with a fury that is almost terrifying. This break may force its way a few miles, and perhaps not 1 mile, and then another gorge and another rise, and in time another break, and so it crashes its way to Norton Sound, probably about 2,400 miles. It took 7 days for the ice to pass us. Here it was about 3 days passing. The ice becomes so broken, crushed, and comminuted before it travels many miles that much of it melts, and great quantities are thrown upon the banks and islands where it remains until it is thawed. There are but 2 seasons here, and the transition is rapid. When the snow disappears, flowers are already in bloom and cover the ground wherever the moss does not crowd them out. In a few days, everything that bears leaves is green, usually a darker green than in the warmer climates. Migratory birds have returned before the snow is off the ground even. These birds are very numerous, but the varieties are few. The Arctic robin is most plentiful and the only singer, a most persistent singer. It is a little lighter colored than the Oregon robin, has not the red breast, and I think is not so large. I can hear dozens of them in the spruces and birches about my house now. It is nearly 1 o'clock a.m. and I've had no light save by daylight, and looking through a window facing north, I can see the sunlight on the mountaintops in the northeast. But for the high mountains, I could see the sun itself. There's been no night since May 1st, and of course but little for some time before that, and there will be no darkness for nearly 2 months yet. The sun just dips below the horizon in the north and then reappears. The moon at this time of year disappears below the southern horizon when about 9 days old, and in fact seems to know that it's of no use here now. But she makes amends in the winter by not disappearing at all when full in midwinter, and then is often of great benefit. I have omitted mention of the aurora borealis, but will sometime endeavor to describe them, that is, try to give you some idea of their magnificent beauties. When next you see one of the many illustrations of an Arctic winter with a Laplander or Siberian on a sled drawn by dogs or reindeer and a white rainbow to represent the aurora, you may conclude that the artist never saw an Arctic aurora. The form of a bow is sometimes observable where the aurora is far away and gives no perceptible light, but the aurora that is worth seeing is directly above you, or nearly so, often in the south, and so low as almost to touch the treetops, all around you at times, and you will think if it were material enough to be felt, you could grasp a handful. One thing you may be sure of is it makes no noise, another is that it has no perceptible effect upon the magnetic needle, and another that it does make an appreciable light. This story came from the great state of New York, being reported in the Sun of September 16th, 1894. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, now remember before you leave, to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.